What is the University of Illinois Springfield? Engagement, enlightenment, energy. Rebecca Landsberg, Assistant Professor of Biology.
So I study the brain, and in particular, I study how regions of the brain arise during embryonic development. And the area I focus on is called the precerebellar system. Now, many of you may not be familiar with this system, and the best way to explain what it does is first to explain the cerebellum. Now, the cerebellum is involved in balance, posture, and motor control, and it does this by taking impulses from the front of the brain and the spinal cord and integrating them. Now, what many people don't know is that the front of the brain and spinal cord can't talk directly to the cerebellum. And this is probably a good thing because though these regions have a number of important impulses, a number of them are the neurological equivalent of junk mail. And so what the cerebellum needs is a region to take these different impulses, distill out the crap, and then present what's important to the cerebellum. And that's the function of the precerebellar system.
Sarah M. Hartwick, UIS graduate student and Illinois legislative staff intern through the Center for State Policy and Leadership.
90% of the House Republican staff began as an ILSIP intern. As the public university in the state capital, UIS is in a unique position to offer the ILSIP program. My personal assignment with the program since beginning August 16th was to staff the Elementary and Secondary Education Committee on behalf of the House Republicans during the 2 weeks of veto session that took place this past October. I want to tell you a story of one piece of legislation to give you a feel of what goes on inside the legislative process. During the second week of veto, the governor's office surprised the entire committee by adding Senate Bill 277 to the hearing agenda the night before the hearing. This bill is the Military Compact Bill, which would contractually add the state of Illinois to the 23 states who are already signed on to this compact, designed to smooth the process.
Deborah Kuhn McGregor, Professor of History and Women and Gender Studies.
Thank you. I'm here to tell you a little bit about my research in the history of medicine. Children Need Sunshine. This rare early silent film was produced in 1925 and was meant to educate mothers about rickets in their children, how to identify it, how to prevent it, and how to treat it. Produced in Spanish and English, it was part of a study and a demonstration conducted in New Haven, Connecticut, and funded by the Shepherd-Towner Infancy and Maternity Protection Act of 1921. Care of rickets was at the heart of this progressive legislation concerned with health reform. The setting involved the first American epidemic of rickets, which began about a century ago in the early 1900s. When the film was made, X-ray was a brand new technology for doctors and scientists.
Ray Schroeder, Professor Emeritus, Director of the Center for Online Learning Research and Service, and Shari McCurdy Smith, Associate Director of the Center for Online Learning Research and Service.
I've had the good fortune to serve on the campus since 1977, where we have built a nationally recognized, high-quality online and blended learning program.
I've been associated with online learning at UIS for the past 10 years and with instructional technology for 15. Despite the economy, and absolutely due to the maturing of the web, I firmly believe there has never been a better time to be an educator or a student at UIS. The medium is the message, and an infinity of connectedness makes the medium ubiquitous.
The two of us were fortunate to work at the Office of Technology Enhanced Learning, which recently has become the Center for Online Learning, Research, and Service at the University of Illinois at Springfield.
Our mission is to support faculty members in online teaching, scholarly research, and collaborations.
Tih-Fen Ting, Associate Professor of Environmental Studies.
Hello everyone, I'm very happy to have this opportunity to talk to you about some of the highlights of sustainability education and initiative at UIS. The world is getting smaller. This significant shrinkage of available land per person has to do with tremendous growth of human population, whereas more people once meant more ingenuity, more talent, and more innovation, and today it seems to mean less for each of us. We live on planet Earth that has limited resources. At the same time, the gap between the wealthy and the poor also becomes wider. However, how we can frame social and economic policy to achieve equity for all humanity is definitely a big challenge. Most real-world problems exist at the intersection of disciplines in which fundamental analysis is most needed. We need to stress system thinking and integration of knowledge. How can we meet our needs without compromising the potential for the future generation to meet their needs? How can we endure or sustain? By sustainability, I mean achieving a balance between environmental stewardship, social responsibility, and economic well-being. The contribution of sustainability education is to highlight the interconnectedness and interdependence of natural and social systems, as well as the adoption of equity principles.
Sharon Graff, Associate Professor of Ethnomusicology.
Global scholarship in the music classroom. My long-standing scholarly interests as an ethnomusicologist focus on traditional music and cultural performance, including global comparisons. I've published about old-time music and performed in many old-time fiddle competitions and demonstrations, and I'm currently preparing to add a global and comparative perspective to my study of tradition, identity, cultural change, and festival by traveling to the South Pacific Islands to study contemporary music and dance practices. In direct relation to my scholarly projects, my teaching explores the diverse cultural influences that shape musical traditions of America while also emphasizing global comparisons. My interest in ethnomusicology was kindled when I was in secondary school. My parents enrolled me in private music instruction on piano, trumpet, and violin. At the same time, they listened to folk music programming on public radio. Ragtime piano and jazz were favorites, as were string band traditions from Europe and America.
Stanislaw Adam Lipski, UIS Capital Scholars Honors undergraduate student, double majoring in sociology, anthropology, and political science.
We went to Peru this summer. It was a 17-day trip with 10 students and 1 instructor, Veronica Espina. Once there, we attended a Spanish school, had many field trips, and immersed ourselves in daily life and culture. Not only did we visit many places, but had many activities. In Cusco, we stayed with host families. In the mornings, we had Spanish classes. In the evenings, we had field trips. Besides the city, we stayed in the beautiful countryside. Walking excursions were great and great exercise. Walking the same trails originally walked by the Incas left deep emotions in me. Scaling the monumental architecture, their high-tech palaces, enormous terraces, and their sophisticated irrigation systems was priceless. The class trip consisted of 4 phases. First, there was the pre-trip preparation where we learned about Peruvian culture and history. Second, we went abroad, kept a journal in both Spanish and English. Third, we did 3 weeks of processing online and submitted final projects. Last, and probably most important, we organized and executed community-oriented projects.
Kelly Thompson, Director of the UIS Volunteer Center, Division of Student Affairs.
The mission of the UIS Volunteer Center is to connect students, faculty, and staff to quality civic engagement and volunteer opportunities that further the social good of Central Illinois and beyond. We take part in statewide events like this one featuring our AmeriCorps members, marching to the Capitol last month with hundreds of others across Illinois for AmeriCorps opening day ceremonies. AmeriCorps is a national service program, and this group of students will complete about 5,000 hours of community service during the current academic year. In addition to marching to the Capitol, the AmeriCorps members mentor numerous students each week in local middle and elementary schools in Springfield. We also participate in a tutoring program with the local school district called AVID. And in that program, we work with them to help prepare the students with basic study skills to help them with college. We also like to show the schools we care by beautifying their grounds, such as painting their light posts and planting trees and removing weeds.
Keenan Dungey, Associate Professor of Chemistry.
The primary mission of UIS is to deliver an excellent education. We believe that excellent teaching can be brought about in the active learning opportunities of student-centered research projects. Today, I will show you some of my teaching and research as an example of one way in which UIS is implementing the teacher-scholar model. My work centers around the field of nanotechnology. Nanotechnology has been called the next big thing. However, it's actually very small, having to do with the manipulation of matter on the nanometer scale, which is 1/10,000th the width of a human hair. These small manipulations can result in large changes in matter. In this image from IBM, a ring of atoms makes a quantum chorale, which has unique properties. Here at UIS, our students are learning about and experimenting with nanotechnology. I work primarily with undergraduates, and all UIS chemistry students are required to complete a research project as part of their bachelor's degree.
Michael Lemke, Associate Professor of Biology and Director of the UIS Emaquan Field Station, and Michael Purnell, Emaquan Advisory Board Member and UIS alumnus.
Emaquan is an area of large, shallow floodplain lakes. This habitat has attracted an incredible diversity of life, and humans have roamed Emaquan for millennia.
Today, a major restoration is taking place at Emaquan, and UIS is there. UIS's Thurkelson Field Station at Emaquan, an extraordinary place at an extraordinary time.
9 years ago, the Nature Conservancy bought the Wilder Farm on the Illinois River near Havana. The Conservancy selected this area for an ambitious wetland restoration project.
In 2003, UIS's Dr. Mike Lemke and Doug Blodgett of the Nature Conservancy proposed that UIS build a field station at Emaquan. In 2007, UIS and its partners broke ground for the new structure. The building grew on a bluff overlooking Emaquan.
University of Illinois Springfield, U of I academic excellence, personalized approach, and preparing students for the ever-evolving challenges in our world.